40,000 years ago, a creature that should have killed you instead chose to sleep beside your fire. It had teeth that could crush bone. It hunted in packs that could bring down animals 10 times its size. And somehow, out of every terrifying predator roaming the Ice Age world, this one didn't stay your enemy. It became your best friend. It became every dog you've ever loved. But here's the part almost nobody knows. Scientists still cannot agree on why it happened, where it happened, or even how many times it happened. The most successful animal partnership in the history of our planet might have been an accident nobody planned. And it started with a species we later spent thousands of years trying to hunt into extinction. That's the story we're telling today. If you're the kind of person who likes uncovering the hidden history behind ordinary things, hit that like button right now and subscribe, because Origin Tales digs up stories like this every single week. And this one gets stranger the deeper we go. Picture a world locked in ice. Glaciers cover half the northern hemisphere. The air is sharp enough to hurt your lungs. Herds of mammoths move slowly across frozen plains, and somewhere in the tree line, something is watching them. Not human eyes. Not yet. These are the eyes of an animal that had already been perfecting survival for over 1 million years before a single human ever picked up a spear. Wolves did not start out as the animal we picture today. Their ancestors were smaller, scrappier, competing in a world already packed with monsters. Saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, cave bears twice the size of a grizzly. To survive here, an animal needed more than sharp teeth. It needed strategy, it needed teamwork. A lone wolf could never take down a bison, but a coordinated pack, moving with silent signals, splitting to flank prey from every direction, could kill animals weighing thousands of pounds. This wasn't blind instinct. It was something closer to planning. Picture the moment right before the strike. The pack spreads into a loose crescent around a wounded elk, half hidden by drifting snow. No barking, no chaos, just eyes locked on the leader, waiting. Then, all at once, they move. It's fast, it's brutal, and it works because every wolf already understood its role before the hunt even began. This one trait, cooperation, is exactly what would one day make wolves the perfect partner for another struggling species fighting to survive the same frozen world. That species was us. Early humans were not the dominant force on the planet we imagine today. We were vulnerable, slower than most predators, weak, alone. We survived through the same strategy wolves had already mastered, but we lacked what wolves had in abundance: speed, stamina, a nose that could smell prey from over a mile away. Two struggling species, same frozen world, same prey. For a long time, they were not partners, they were rivals. A wolf pack trails a group of human hunters through the snow, keeping a careful distance, watching for a chance to steal the kill before the humans finish butchering it. The hunters see the shapes moving between the trees and tighten their grip on their spears. One man throws a rock toward the tree line. The shapes retreat, but they don't leave. They circle back an hour later, closer this time. Neither side trusts the other. Neither side has any reason to. This tension could have gone on for thousands more years. In some regions, it probably did. But somewhere, under conditions we still don't fully understand, something shifted. So how did we go from stealing each other's meat to a bond so deep that today, over 470 million dogs live inside human homes across the planet? This is where the story splits into mystery. One theory imagines a moment of tenderness. A hunting party finds an orphaned wolf pup, its mother killed in the last hunt. Someone picks it up, feeds it, raises it beside their own children. It's a beautiful image. It's also, according to most researchers, probably not what really happened. Wild wolf pups, even raised by humans from birth, tend to stay fundamentally wild as they grow. Domestication doesn't usually start with one soft moment. It happens slowly across generations through pressure that nobody controls. So what actually happened? Here's the more likely version. A human camp at the edge of the wilderness. A fire crackling in the dark, throwing orange light against the snow. Voices, low and tired, drift from around the flames, and scattered at the edges of the camp, just past where the firelight fades into shadow, there's garbage, bones, scraps nobody wanted. To a starving wolf in the middle of an Ice Age winter, that garbage looks like a miracle. Most wolves keep their distance. Fear of humans keeps a wolf alive. One wrong move near a group of armed hunters, and that's the end of the story. But not every wolf reacts to fear the same way. In every wild population, some individuals are just naturally calmer, bolder, less reactive to stress. One of them, low to the ground, ribs visible beneath a thin winter coat, inches toward the edge of the firelight while the rest of its pack hangs back in the trees. It grabs a bone, it survives the night. And near this one specific camp, full of free calories, that boldness stopped being a weakness. It became an advantage. The calm wolves ate, the nervous ones stayed hungry. Generation after generation, without a single human trying to tame anything on purpose, nature was quietly running an experiment. The wolves near the fire were slowly becoming calmer, friendlier, more tolerant of people. Scientists call this self-domestication. Nobody adopted a wolf. A population of wolves adopted us. But this is where the story takes its first real turn. Genetic research has pushed the timeline for this transformation back and back again. Older estimates placed it around 15,000 years ago. New evidence suggests it may have started over 30,000 years ago, possibly earlier. Let that sink in. Dogs may be older than farming, older than pottery, older than the wheel. This partnership may have existed before humans built a single permanent home. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Did dogs help make civilization possible instead of the other way around? A hunter, 20,000 years ago, moves through a snow-covered forest, tracking a wounded elk that's been bleeding for hours. The light is fading. His feet are numb. Normally, he'd lose the trail here. The blood freezes fast. The scent fades in the wind, and the tracks vanish under fresh snowfall. But not tonight. Beside him moves an animal whose nose can follow a trail his own senses could never detect. It stops, sniffs the air, changes direction without hesitation, and he follows without question, because by now, he's learned to trust it. They move together through the trees like this for over an hour, the hunter reading the animal's body language, the animal reading his. Then it stops again. Ears forward, body still. There, in a small clearing ahead, the elk has finally collapsed. His family eats that winter because of a partnership that didn't exist a single generation earlier. This wasn't a business transaction. It was becoming something closer to kinship. And then scientists discovered something even stranger. As this bond deepened, physical changes started appearing in these early dogs that had nothing to do with hunting. Floppier ears, curled tails, patches of white fur that would have gotten a wild wolf killed by making it easy to spot against the snow. Smaller, more crowded teeth. For decades, nobody understood why these traits kept showing up together. Then, in the 1950s, Soviet scientist Dmitri Belyaev ran an experiment that changed everything. Rows of cages on a research farm in Siberia, hundreds of silver foxes, most snarling the moment a human hand gets close. Belyaev's team tested every pup and only bred forward the handful that stayed calm. Just tameness. Nothing else was selected for. Within a handful of generations, something impossible happened. The foxes didn't just get friendlier. They wagged their tails at researchers, and their bodies changed too. Floppy ears, curled tails, patches of white fur on faces and paws, traits nobody bred for directly, appearing on their own. The genes controlling fear turned out to be biologically tangled up with the genes controlling these physical traits. Select for calm behavior, and you accidentally select for a different-looking animal. Nature had been running Belyaev's exact experiment for thousands of years already, near every human campfire in the Ice Age world, and it explains, almost perfectly, how a wild predator quietly turned into something new. But while one branch of this family tree was transforming into humanity's closest companion, something devastating was happening to the other branch. Then everything changed. As human civilizations grew, hunting gave way to farming, and wolves that once competed with humans for wild prey found a brand new target: livestock. Picture a farmer walking out at dawn to check on his flock, breath fogging in the cold morning air and finding half of it gone. Torn tracks in the mud, blood in the frost, already freezing at the edges. He counts the survivors twice, hoping he miscounted the first time. He didn't. For a family whose entire survival depended on that flock lasting through winter, this wasn't just a loss. It was a death sentence. Fear turned into hatred. Hatred turned into policy. And what happened next shocked no one who lived through it, but it should shock us now. Across Europe, kings placed bounties on wolves, paying hunters for every pelt brought in. Entire campaigns were organized specifically to wipe them out, village by village, forest by forest. Wolves went fully extinct in England by the 16th century. Populations across Western Europe collapsed within a few centuries, pushed into smaller and smaller pockets of remaining wilderness. When European settlers reached North America, they brought this same deep hostility with them. Government programs offered cash for wolf carcasses. Poison was left out across entire territories, killing far more than just wolves. By the middle of the 20th century, wolves had been eliminated from almost the entire continental United States, surviving only in a handful of remote, forgotten corners. Think about the strange tragedy hiding inside that fact. The species that gave the world dogs, arguably humanity's most loyal companion for tens of thousands of years, was being driven toward extinction by the very species it helped survive. This is where I want to hear from you. Do you think wolves deserved the reputation they got, or did fear and folklore turn them into something they never really were? Drop your answer in the comments, because the debate on this is far from settled, even among wildlife experts today. By the mid-1900s, wild wolves had nearly vanished from huge stretches of the planet. And that's when scientists discovered something nobody expected. Removing one predator doesn't just remove one animal. It can unravel an entire landscape. Yellowstone National Park, the 1920s. The last wolves are gone. The forest feels strangely quiet, missing a sound nobody thought to miss. Without their natural predator, elk herds explode in number. They spread along the riverbanks and strip the young trees bare. Year after year, until almost nothing new can grow. Without those trees, beavers lose the material they need to build dams. Without beaver dams, rivers change course, eroding faster, reshaping the entire water table of the park. One missing predator, a slow-motion collapse that took decades for anyone to fully understand. Then, in 1995, scientists tried something bold. Wooden crates arrived by truck, carrying gray wolves captured in Canada, and one by one, they were released back into a landscape that hadn't heard a wolf howl in nearly 70 years. What happened next stunned researchers. Elk stopped lingering near the rivers, avoiding the spots where wolves could ambush them. Young trees started growing back for the first time in decades. Beavers returned. Riverbanks stabilized. An ecosystem broken by the absence of one species began stitching itself back together because that species finally came home. It remains one of the most powerful proofs in modern science that nothing in nature exists alone. So here we are today, with two branches of the same ancient species living completely different lives. One branch, dogs, is so deeply woven into human life that they sleep in our beds, ride in our cars, and are legally recognized as family in some countries. The other branch, wild wolves, is still fighting to reclaim territory it dominated for hundreds of thousands of years, still viewed with suspicion in places that once hunted it to the edge of extinction. A wolf today stands on a ridge somewhere in the northern Rockies, watching a distant road where a farmer's truck rolls past. Two branches of one bloodline, closer than either side realizes, separated only by which side of that fire, so many thousands of years ago, they chose to stand on. And here's the twist that connects this entire story straight to your living room tonight. That dog sleeping on your couch right now carries, somewhere deep in its DNA, the genetic echo of an Ice Age predator that once hunted mammoths. Every time your dog tilts its head when you speak, every time it reads your face with an accuracy most animals simply can't match, you're witnessing tens of thousands of years of selection that specifically favored wolves capable of understanding humans. In laboratory tests, researchers have pointed at one of two containers to show a dog where food was hidden. Most dogs immediately followed the gesture without any training at all. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, genetically speaking, usually fail this same simple test. It sounds small, but it points to something enormous. Somewhere in the last 30,000 years, dogs evolved a specific ability to read human intention that our own closest primate relatives never developed. That's an almost unbelievable outcome of an accidental partnership that started with garbage at the edge of a fire. And the story still isn't finished. Modern conservation efforts are now trying to walk a careful line, protecting and reintroducing wild wolves across North America and Europe, while managing the same tension between wolves and farmers that fueled centuries of extermination in the first place. Geneticists are still mapping exactly when, where, and how many times this transformation happened, and the answers keep complicating the simple version of the story. Ancient dog remains from Europe and Asia carry genetic signatures that don't line up with a single point of origin, hinting that domestication may have occurred independently more than once among wolf populations that never had any contact with each other, which means this might not be one origin story. It might be several unfolding in parallel across different continents, all somehow arriving at the same extraordinary outcome. As if this particular predator was always going to find its way toward us, no matter where on Earth the story began. When you step back and look at the full shape of this story, it's hard not to feel something. A predator built to survive the harshest conditions on Earth, an animal humans feared, then tried to erase from existence. And somehow, it became the foundation for the single most common household companion on the planet. Somewhere between a discarded bone at the edge of an Ice Age fire and the dog sleeping peacefully in your home tonight, an entire evolutionary and emotional journey took place. One neither species could have predicted, one that quietly changed the course of human history. The next time your dog rests its head on your lap, or looks up at you like it's trying to understand exactly what you're feeling, remember what you now know. You're not just looking at a pet. You're looking at the living result of one of the strangest, longest, and most powerful relationships two species have ever formed. A relationship that began with survival, and somehow, against every likely odds, turned into something that looks a lot like love. If this changed the way you'll look at your own dog or wolves in general, tell me in the comments. Hit like if you made it this far, because it genuinely helps this channel keep making stories like this. And subscribe if you want to keep uncovering the hidden histories behind the world around you. Because trust me, this is only the beginning of what's coming.